The red dust of Mars swirled outside the thick windows of Deep Space Monitoring Station 7. Inside, Jack Brown stared at his screen, watching the usual patterns of space traffic scroll by. 6 years at this post had taught him to expect the unexpected, but nothing could have prepared him for what was about to appear on his monitor. It started as a faint blip, barely different from background noise. But there was something odd about its pattern, something that made Jack sit up straighter in his chair. He adjusted his headphones and increased the signal strength. "Hey, Pete," he called out to his supervisor. "You might want to take a look at this." Pete Wilson walked over, coffee mug in hand. He was an older man who had seen everything in his 30 years of space monitoring. Or so he thought. "What have you got?" Well, I'm not sure." Jack pointed to the strange wavelength pattern on his screen. "It's not using any known communication frequency. And look at the power signature. It's massive." Pete leaned in closer, his coffee forgotten. The signal was unlike anything in their database. It pulsed with a regular rhythm that couldn't be natural, but it didn't match any known human or automated transmission patterns. "Run it through the Deep Space Protocol," Pete ordered, now fully alert. Jack's fingers flew across the keyboard. The computer analyzed the signal, breaking it down into its component parts. Numbers flashed across the screen, and then a red warning appeared. Origin, unknown. Sijian Ale Type, unknown. Recommended action. Immediate escalation. Within minutes, the signal was being broadcast to every major space command center on Earth and Mars. At the United Earth Space Force headquarters in Geneva, Admiral West looked at the data and made an immediate decision. The UES Pathfinder was the closest ship to the signal's origin. Currently on a routine patrol near the outer edges of human space, it was the perfect vessel for this mission. Captain Tom Miller was awakened by the urgent call from Earth. "Captain," the Admiral's voice came through clear despite the vast distance. "We're picking up something unusual. Sending you the data now." Miller studied the information on his cabin's display. He had commanded the Pathfinder for 5 years, through first contact missions and space rescues, but this signal was different. It carried a complexity that suggested advanced technology, far beyond current human capabilities. "Assemble the crew," he ordered through the ship's comm system. "Emergency briefing in 10 minutes." The Pathfinder's crew gathered in the main briefing room. They were the best Earth had to offer. A mix of veterans and young talents who had proven themselves in countless situations. Miller looked at their faces as he explained the situation. "The signal appears to be a distress call," he concluded. "But if it is, it's not from any civilization we know about." "Sir," Chief Engineer Walker raised her hand. "The power readings from this signal, they're off the charts. Whatever sent this has technology far beyond ours." Miller nodded. "That's why we're going to approach with extreme caution. Plot a course to the signal's origin, but keep our distance until we know what we're dealing with." The Pathfinder's engines hummed to life as it changed course. The ship accelerated through space, its fusion drives pushing it to maximum safe speed. Every crew member felt the tension. They could be heading toward humanity's greatest discovery, or its greatest threat. Hours passed as they drew closer to the signal source. The ship's sensors began picking up more detail. There was something out there. Something big. "Captain," the sensor operator called out, "I'm picking up multiple objects ahead." They're huge, sir. Hundreds of them." Miller walked to the main viewport just as the ship's lights illuminated the scene before them. His breath caught in his throat. Spread out across space was a fleet of ships. Alien ships, unlike anything humanity had ever seen. They were massive, their hulls shimmering with an otherworldly metal. But something was wrong. The ships were dark, drifting, their formation scattered as if they had lost power. "My God," Miller whispered. The scope of what they were seeing began to sink in. This wasn't just a distress call. This was a rescue mission that would push humanity to its limits. And somewhere out there, among those countless drifting ships, Millions of alien lives were hanging in the balance, waiting for help that they never expected would come from a species they didn't even know existed. The real question was, were humans ready for what would come next? The UES Pathfinder moved slowly through the massive alien fleet. Captain Miller counted over 300 ships of various sizes, from small vessels no bigger than his own ship to enormous city-sized craft that stretched for kilometers. All of them were dark, with only emergency lights blinking weakly across their hulls. Any response to our hails? Miller asked his communications officer. Nothing yet, sir, replied Linda Reed, her fingers moving across her console. I'm trying all frequencies, including the pattern matched to their distress signal. Suddenly, her console lit up with activity. Captain, we're receiving a transmission. The main screen came to life, showing a sight that made the entire bridge crew fall silent. The alien that appeared was tall and slender, with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. Its large eyes were completely black, but somehow managed to convey both intelligence and worry. Unknown vessel, the alien spoke, its words automatically translated by the ship's computer. I am First Speaker Ray of the Brightborn Fleet. Your ship, it is so primitive. How did you receive our distress call? Miller straightened in his chair. This was humanity's first major diplomatic contact with an advanced alien species, and he couldn't afford to show any weakness. I am Captain Tom Miller of the United Earth Space Force vessel Pathfinder. We detected your signal and came to offer assistance. The alien's expression changed in a way that seemed to show disbelief. Assistance. Your vessel's technology appears to be centuries behind ours. What assistance could you possibly offer? Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones, Miller replied calmly. Will you tell us what happened to your fleet? First Speaker Ray was quiet for a moment, clearly debating whether to share information with these primitive humans. Finally, necessity won over pride. We are refugees, Ray explained. Our home system was destroyed when our sun began to die unexpectedly. We evacuated millions of our people, but during our journey, we encountered a previously unknown type of radiation from that pulsar. The alien pointed to a bright spot in the distance. It has affected our quantum drives in ways we don't understand. Now we are stranded, and our shields are slowly failing. Engineer Walker stepped forward. Captain, with your permission. Miller nodded, and Walker addressed the alien. First Speaker, I'm Chief Engineer Walker. Could you share the basic principles of your drive system? Maybe we can help find a solution. The alien made a sound that might have been a laugh. Your species hasn't even mastered quantum folding. How could you possibly understand our technology? Try us, Miller said. We may surprise you. After some discussion among the alien leadership, they agreed to send their technical data. Walker and her team began studying it immediately. The alien technology was incredibly advanced, but as they examined it, Walker noticed something interesting. It's beautiful, she said, looking at the complex quantum equations on her screen. But it's also incredibly delicate. Their whole system is built on perfect quantum harmony. When that harmony was disrupted by the pulsar's radiation, everything fell apart. And our systems? Miller asked. Walker smiled. Ours are much simpler, but also more robust. They might call our fusion drives primitive, but they work even under extreme conditions. We might be able to use that to our advantage. Back on the main screen, First Speaker Ray was watching the humans with growing curiosity. These creatures were nothing like what the Brightborn expected to find in this part of space. They were supposed to be simple, primitive beings. Yet here they were, fearlessly offering help to a clearly superior civilization. Captain Miller, Ray said, we have 3 million people on these ships. Our life support systems will begin to fail in less than 10 Earth days. If you truly believe you can help us, we accept your offer. Miller looked around at his crew, seeing determination in their eyes. Humanity had been waiting for a moment like this, a chance to prove themselves to the galaxy. We'll need to work fast, Miller said, and we'll need your people to keep an open mind about our methods. They may not be as elegant as what you're used to, but they'll get the job done. Ray nodded slowly. Agreed. And Captain, thank you for coming to our aid. Whatever happens next, we won't forget that humans were the ones who answered our call. The real work was about to begin. And with it, humanity's chance to show that sometimes the simplest solutions were the best ones, even in the most advanced situations. The engine room of the UES Pathfinder buzzed with activity. Engineer Walker stood at a central table, surrounded by holographic displays showing the complex workings of the Brightborn ship's quantum drives. Next to her stood Bright Engineer Green, the alien technical expert who had been sent to work with the humans. "Your quantum drives are amazing," Walker said, pointing to a particular section of the display. "But see how the pulsar's radiation disrupted the field harmony here. It's like throwing a rock into a perfect pond. The ripples destroyed the whole pattern." Green's silvery skin flickered with bands of blue light, which the humans had learned was a sign of frustration. "Yes, and our attempts to restore the harmony have failed. The radiation continues to interfere with any quantum field we generate." Walker walked over to one of the Pathfinder's fusion reactors, placing her hand on its warm housing. "But what if we don't try to fix your quantum drives? What if we try something completely different?" "You mean using your primitive fusion technology?" Green's skin now showed patches of purple, a sign of doubt. "Our ships are far too large. You would need hundreds of your fusion reactors to power even one of our smaller vessels." "Then we'll build hundreds," Walker said simply. "We can replicate our fusion reactor designs quickly. They're not elegant like your quantum drives, but they're strong and reliable. The pulsar's radiation won't affect them nearly as much." The alien engineer moved closer to study the fusion reactor. "But the power output would be so much lower than our quantum drives. Our ships would be limited to sublight speeds." "Better than being stranded here," Walker pointed out. "We can get your fleet to safe space, then work on fixing your quantum drives properly, away from the pulsar's influence." On the bridge, Captain Miller was explaining the plan to First Speaker Ray. "We can manufacture the reactors using our ship's fabrication systems and the raw materials from some of the nearby asteroids. It won't be pretty, but it will work. Our people are not used to traveling at such slow speeds," Ray said, but there was less criticism in the alien leader's voice now. "How long would it take to reach safe space?" "About 2 weeks at full fusion power," Miller replied. "But we'd all get there alive." The next few hours were a flurry of activity. Walker's engineering team began running simulations, while Green shared the technical specifications of the Brightborn ships. They needed to find a way to connect human fusion technology to alien power systems that worked on completely different principles. "Look at this," Walker said excitedly, pointing to a new simulation. "If we modify the fusion containment field to produce a specific frequency, it creates a resonance that your power systems can use. It's like translating between two languages." Green's skin rippled with golden light, the first sign of hope they'd seen from any of the aliens. Yes, I see it now. The resonance pattern is crude, but it's stable. It might actually work." The breakthrough came when they tested the modified fusion reactor on a small alien shuttle. The human technology, despite being less advanced, proved remarkably adaptable. The shuttle's systems hummed to life, powered by what the Brightborn engineers were starting to call the human touch. "We'll need to start mass production immediately," Walker told Miller. "Every hour we wait, their shift shields get weaker." Miller nodded. "I've already contacted Earth. They're sending every available manufacturing ship in the sector. We'll turn this region of space into a temporary shipyard if we have to." First Speaker Ray watched the humans work with growing admiration. These beings, whom the Brightborn had initially dismissed as primitive, were attacking the problem with remarkable determination and creativity. Their solution wasn't elegant or advanced, but it had one important quality: it would work. "Perhaps," Ray said quietly to Miller, "we have something to learn from your people after all." We've become so focused on advancing our technology that we've forgotten the value of simple, reliable solutions. Miller smiled. The best technology isn't always the most advanced. Sometimes it's just the one that gets the job done. Around them, the combined human and Brightborn crews began preparing for the massive engineering effort ahead. They had a plan now, not a perfect one, but a human one. And sometimes, that was exactly what was needed. Warning alarms blared across the refugee fleet. On the Pathfinder's bridge, Captain Miller watched as red warning indicators appeared over more and more of the alien ships on his display screen. "Status report," he called out. "The pulsar's radiation is intensifying." Linda Reed replied from her station. "The Brightborn's shields are failing faster than we expected. We've got multiple ships reporting critical systems failures." First Speaker Ray's image appeared on the main screen, the alien's silvery skin now a dull gray with worry. "Captain, we're losing containment on our life support systems. The outer ships are taking the worst damage." Miller turned to his communications officer. "Get me Engineer Walker." Walker's voice came through, tired but determined. "Captain, we've got the first batch of fusion reactors ready. 20 units, but there are over 300 ships out there." "Which ships are in the most danger?" Miller asked Ray. "The outer ring of our fleet formation," Ray replied. "Those ships contain mostly children and elderly. We placed our strongest ships on the inner ring, but even they won't last much longer." Miller made a quick decision. "Walker, begin installing the reactors on the outer ring ships first. Ray, I need your people to start moving as many as they can to the protected inner ships." "But the radiation exposure during transfer," Ray began, "is better than losing entire ships," Miller finished firmly. "We'll use our shuttle crews to help with the evacuations. They're trained for radiation conditions." The next few hours were chaos. Human shuttles darted between the massive alien ships, braving the increasing radiation to help move thousands of Brightborn refugees. The human crews wore their heaviest radiation suits, but even those weren't designed for this level of exposure. In the engine room of one of the outer ring ships, Walker and her team worked frantically to install a modified fusion reactor. The ship's interior was beautiful but alien, with corridors that seemed to flow like liquid metal. Now those same corridors were growing dark as systems failed one by one. "Power coupling is connected," Walker called out, her voice strained. "Green, how's the resonance pattern?" The alien engineer checked the readings. "Stable, but the radiation is affecting the containment field. We need to strengthen it." "Reroute power from my suit," Walker said, already reaching for her suit controls. "We need every bit of energy we can get." "But your radiation protection," Green protested, "will last long enough to get this done," Walker cut in. She didn't mention how her radiation badge had already turned black, warning of dangerous exposure levels. On another ship, Miller himself led an evacuation team. They found halls filled with frightened Brightborn civilians, their natural glow dimming in the failing light. The human crews helped carry those too weak to walk, their simple strength proving just as valuable as any advanced technology. "Captain," Reed's voice came through his comm. "3 more ships just lost main power. Their life support is running on emergency backup." Miller helped a young Brightborn child into his shuttle. "Walker, we need those reactors now." "First one is online," Walker's reply came between heavy breaths. "Ship's systems are accepting the power. It's working." Moving to the next ship. The hours blurred together as humans and aliens worked side by side. Every few minutes brought news of another system failure, another ship in crisis. But with each passing hour, more fusion reactors came online, their steady power giving new life to the failing alien vessels. First Speaker Ray watched in amazement as the humans pushed themselves to their limits and beyond. These beings, whom they had thought primitive, were risking their lives without hesitation to save people they had only just met. "Captain," Ray called Miller. "Your people, they're suffering radiation damage. You must pull them back." Miller looked at his crew, their faces tired but determined. "With all respect, First speaker, we're not going anywhere. We don't leave people to die, no matter who they are. As if to punctuate his words, another alarm sounded, this time from the pulsar itself. The radiation surge they had feared was coming, and they were running out of time. The race wasn't over yet, and the hardest part was still to come. Engineer Walker's hands shook as she made the final adjustments to the power coupling. She had been working for 20 hours straight, and the radiation exposure was taking its toll. But she couldn't stop now. They were finally making real progress. Green, she called to her alien partner, start the power-up sequence. The Brightborn engineer's skin flickered with nervous energy as he initiated the startup process. This was their 15th reactor installation, but this one was different. They had finally figured out how to make the fusion reactors work more efficiently with the alien systems. Power flow is stable, Green announced, his skin glowing brighter with excitement. The resonance pattern, it's perfect. How did you know this would work? Walker smiled weakly. Sometimes the best ideas come when you're too tired to overthink things. We stopped trying to make our technology match yours, and instead found a way to let them work together. On the bridge of the Pathfinder, Captain Miller received the news with relief. First speaker ready, are you seeing this? The new reactor design is giving you 30% more power than our previous versions. Ray's image on the screen showed the alien leader looking at data streams with amazement. Yes, we see it. Your engineer Walker has done something remarkable. She found a way to make our power distribution systems amplify the fusion reactor's output. Like a speaker system making a small sound louder, Miller explained, using the simple comparison. Walker calls it the echo effect. The new design changed everything. What had seemed like an impossible task, powering the massive alien fleet with human fusion technology, suddenly became achievable. The combined human and Brightborn engineering teams began updating the already installed reactors with the new design. More help arrived from Earth every hour. Factory ships, supply vessels, and engineering crews poured into the region. The humans had mobilized everything they could to save the stranded aliens. Update from the fleet. Linda Reed reported. First ring of ships is now completely converted to the new power system. Their shields are back to 60% strength and rising. Miller nodded. How many ships left? 212, Reed replied. But with the new design, we can work faster. The Brightborn engineers have started doing installations on their own now that they understand the process. In the medical bay, doctors treated Walker and other engineers for radiation exposure. But even as they received treatment, they continued working, using tablets and holographic displays to guide other teams through the installation process. You need rest, the doctor told Walker. I'll rest when the fleet is safe, she replied, then turned back to her tablet where Green's image waited. Okay, on the next chip, try routing the power through the secondary distribution grid first. It should help stabilize the initial surge. The Brightborn were learning quickly. What had started as a grudging acceptance of human help had turned into genuine collaboration. Their advanced scientific knowledge, combined with human practical engineering, was producing better results than either species could have achieved alone. First speaker Ray visited the Pathfinder's medical bay personally to speak with Walker. The alien leader's tall form had to bend to fit through the human-sized doorway, but Ray didn't seem to mind. Your solution, Ray said, skin glowing with deep blue respect. It's not just saving our ships. It's teaching us something important. We had become so focused on perfection that we forgot about adaptability. Walker sat up in her bed. That's humanity's greatest strength. We're not perfect, so we had to learn to adapt, to find ways to make things work, even when they're not ideal. A valuable lesson, Ray agreed, one that my people will not forget. Outside the medical bay windows, the fleet was coming back to life. Ship after ship lit up with power as the new reactors came online. The massive vessel's shields strengthened, pushing back against the pulsar's deadly radiation. Miller watched from the bridge as another ship's lights came on. They were going to make it. Humanity's primitive technology, combined with Brightborn advanced science, was creating something entirely new, something that worked. But as he celebrated this victory, new alarms began to sound. The pulsar was becoming more active, and its next surge would be the biggest yet. They had found their solution, but would they have time to implement it before the storm hit? The pulsar's light grew blindingly bright on the Pathfinder's main screen. Captain Miller watched as the radiation sensors showed readings far beyond their designed limits. They had known this surge was coming, but its size was beyond anything they had expected. "Time to impact?" Miller asked. 4 minutes, Linda Reed replied, her voice tense. "The surge will hit the outer edge of the fleet first. Sir, even with the new reactors, the partly converted ships won't survive this." First Speaker Ray's image appeared on the screen. The alien leader's skin had turned almost white with fear. "Captain, we still have 93 ships without the new power systems. We need more time." Miller looked at his tactical display. The fleet was arranged in a rough sphere, with the most vulnerable ships gathered in the center. But the pulsar's radiation would tear through them all unless... "Walker," he called to the engineer who was still coordinating from the medical bay. "If we put a ship between the pulsar and the fleet, could its shields deflect enough radiation to protect the others?" There was a moment of silence. "Yes," Walker finally answered. "But the ship would have to divert all power to its forward shields. And even then, Captain, no ship could survive that kind of exposure for long." Miller stood up from his chair. "How long would it give them?" "Maybe 20 minutes. But sir..." "That's an order, Walker. Tell me how to position the Pathfinder." The entire bridge crew turned to stare at their captain. First Speaker Ray's image flickered with bands of shocked purple. "Captain Miller, you cannot be serious. Your ship will be destroyed." "Better one ship than an entire fleet," Miller replied calmly. "Walker, I need those shield modifications now. Reed, send the coordinates to all ships. I want every vessel that still can move to get behind us." The next 3 minutes were a blur of activity. Walker and Green worked together to modify the Pathfinder's shield systems, pushing them far beyond their designed limits. The human crew moved with quiet determination, each person knowing what their captain's decision meant. "Modifications complete," Walker reported. "Sir, it's been an honor." Miller looked at his crew. "Anyone who wants to evacuate can take the emergency pods now." Not a single person moved. The pulsar's surge began right on schedule. The Pathfinder moved into position, its reinforced shields facing the deadly wave of radiation. Behind it, the refugee fleet scrambled to get into the ship's shadow. The impact was like nothing they had ever experienced. The Pathfinder shuddered as energy slammed into its shields. Warning lights flashed across every console as systems were pushed to their breaking point. Shield strength at 80%. Reed called out, 75, 70. In the engine room, the fusion reactors screamed as they were pushed beyond safety limits. The ship's hull groaned under the strain, but it held. First Speaker Ray watched in awe as the tiny human vessel stood against forces that would have destroyed even the largest Brightborn ships. The Pathfinder's shields glowed like a small star, spreading out to create a protective cone behind it. "Captain," Ray said, "your sacrifice is not happening today." A new voice cut in. Engineer Walker's face appeared on a separate screen. "Sorry, Captain, but I took the liberty of making one more modification." Through the medical bay window, they could see several Brightborn ships moving into position alongside the Pathfinder. Each one extended its shields, linking them with the human vessel's protection field. "The echo effect works both ways," Walker explained. "We can use their advanced shield technology to amplify our power output. Together, we're stronger than either of us alone." Miller smiled despite the ship's violent shaking. "Time to radiation peak." 3 minutes, Reed answered. "Sir, I think we're actually going to make it." The combined shield wall held as the pulsar's rage washed over them. Human determination and alien technology working together, protecting the fleet long enough for the final ships to be converted. They would survive, not through advanced technology alone, but through the one force that both species were now learning to share: unity. 1 month after the rescue, the Grand Hall of the United Earth Space Force headquarters in Geneva was filled with both humans and Brightborn. The tall, silvery aliens stood alongside their human counterparts, their skin glowing with various colors of emotion as they attended the historic ceremony. Captain Miller stood at attention as first speaker Ray approached the podium. The Pathfinder's crew was arranged behind him, including Engineer Walker, who had finally recovered from her radiation exposure. Their uniforms bore new insignia, a combined symbol of Earth and the Brightborn civilization. 1 month ago, Ray began, his voice carrying across the silent hall. We thought ourselves alone in our hour of need. We were a civilization that prided itself on its advanced technology, yet we found ourselves helpless. Then came humanity. The alien leader's skin rippled with waves of golden gratitude. These humans, whom we first dismissed as primitive, showed us something we had forgotten. They showed us that true advancement isn't just about technology. It's about heart, determination, and the willingness to help others without hesitation. Walker shifted uncomfortably as Ray turned to face her. Engineer Walker's echo effect has revolutionized both our technologies. The combination of human fusion power and our quantum systems has created something entirely new, something better than either of us had before. Miller thought back to that final moment when the pulsar's surge had threatened to destroy them all. The sight of human and alien ships standing together, their combined shields holding back the storm, had been unforgettable. Today, Ray continued, we don't just celebrate a rescue. We celebrate the birth of a true alliance between our peoples. The Brightborn High Council has voted unanimously to share our quantum technology with Earth. In return, we ask for your help in establishing new colonies. Together, we will explore the galaxy as equals. The hall erupted in applause. Humans and aliens alike celebrated as Ray presented Miller with the highest honor of the Brightborn people, a crystal that glowed with the same inner light as their skin. After the ceremony, Miller found Walker staring out a window at the stars. In orbit above Earth, the massive shapes of Brightborn ships could be seen, their hulls now powered by the hybrid human-alien technology she had helped create. Quite a view, Miller said, joining her. It's strange, Walker replied. A month ago, we were scrambling to save them. Now they're helping us build ships that can cross the galaxy in weeks instead of years. That's not the most important thing we gained, Miller said. We proved something out there. Proved that humanity has something special to offer the galaxy. First speaker Ray approached them, accompanied by Engineer Green. The two aliens' skin glowed with warm colors of friendship. We're ready to begin the joint exploration program, Ray announced. The first fleet will combine both our technologies and crews. Captain Miller, we would be honored if you would lead it. Miller smiled. The Pathfinder was built to find new frontiers. I can't think of a better mission for her and her crew. And this time, Green added, his skin flickering with amused blue lights, we won't call your solutions primitive, just effective. Walker grinned. As they talked, more ships appeared in the sky above, human vessels being fitted with the new hybrid drives. Soon, they would venture out together, exploring parts of space that neither species could have reached alone. In the end, it hadn't just been about saving the Brightborn fleet. It had been about two civilizations learning that they were stronger together than apart. The humans had shown that sometimes the simplest solutions were the best ones, while the Brightborn had learned that true advancement meant never stopping to learn and grow. As Miller looked at his crew mingling with their new alien allies, he knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity had taken its first real steps into the galactic community, not through war or competition, but through compassion and ingenuity. The stars waited for them, and this time, they would explore them together. ###the end.